Good evening, at least for me. Today I'm going to make a video and I'm going to talk about all of this mess with the United States and what is happening and what we can expect to the future. I'm going to try to make this short uh, because I'm just going to take some things out of my chest and talk a bit about it. Now, this is related to a comment that I make. Uh, we all need to be pragmatic about this, okay? It was a rude call, a rude wake up call, especially to Canada and Europe. But if we all think about it, we can see that the signs were already there, okay? Even politicians were expecting this. A lot of people around here were talking about it, okay? There were a lot of discussions about the role of the United States, how it was waning, how it was becoming more as going into motions of the agreements in NATO and all of this and little more. And then there was a moment where those that were speaking about this, about all of this that was happening and the consequences to the future and the lack of trust in the United States, there was a moment when that side, so to speak, won leverage. And that was when when Crimea happened. Okay, when the United States basically did nothing when the Russians took over Crimea, and the rest of Europe could not do a lot. This is the truth. And when that happened, other countries that were already sounding the alarms about Russia and that know exactly what Russia is, they started immediately to talk about it, especially the Baltic states, Poland, and in the Nordic countries, Finland, and also other voices all over Europe. But these countries, they have experimented in their own skin uh, the the type of brutality, like Ukraine, the type of brutality that Russia imposes to its neighbors. Okay, now when the G7 meeting happened, we could see clearly that there was a difference, and it did not have exclusively to do with the tariffs and the entire situation that had been created, that the shouting match at the White House and all of that. You you want to know? I'm going to tell you this very clearly. Trump left early because there was nothing to speak with them. The other countries, they did not have anything to talk about them, to talk with them, okay? Because he had burned the bridges. But you have to understand this. When this new administration took power, people were expecting something bad, let's call it like this, to happen. Okay, but they continued to go into the routines of NATO and all of that. But the distrust was there. The intelligence leaks were there. Okay, and basically from that moment, from Crimea and then to the invasion of Ukraine and all of this, the wheels were already turning. And I keep telling to people that you cannot look at politics, cannot look at economics, and think of morals. Okay, morals are good when people are good, but when people are guided by interests that sometimes have to be immoral, like politics, like economics, then you cannot analyze it from that perspective. Okay, if you are analyzing an economic or a political subject, you have to analyze it as it is. Okay, don't dream about applying morals to those things. And it was already turning. And now what is happening? Okay, NATO, for example, it's morphing. Okay, it's changing. It's changing to some kind of EU, Canada, Japan, and Korea uh, alliance. Okay, some kind of a military pact, and it won't disappear. Okay, and I don't think even the USA it won't leave NATO, at least for now. But the USA has clearly lost relevance in it, and there are other things growing and transforming that are replacing NATO. The alliance between the EU and Canada, for example, the future EU army that is being fueled by the France and Germany engine. Okay, it's all okay. It's all changing. Countries are changing. Spheres of influence are changing, and in regards of the future relationship with the USA, we have to be pragmatic, and I think people will just cut their losses, okay, and try to prevent this from ever happening again. I think, like I said in that comment, that we are in a period of history that history books will talk about. Okay, I even said something that I think it's an expression that I think it will be in those books. If you are someone in the future, a history teacher, a history writer, and you are watching this video for some kind of weird accident, I think this is when the American century ended. It's okay. Change is inevitable. Okay, you cannot change some things. All you can do is just accept it and ride the wave. This is true for our lives. This is also true for history. Okay, countries they rise, they fall, they die, they whatever. Okay, it's natural, and we just have to accept these things. Okay, and we have to accept that even if tomorrow there is a new democratic administration in the United States, it will never be the same again. It might improve, okay, it might perfectly improve, okay. Things can change, things can get better. But the problem here is that this administration is just the visible symptom of a disease, something that is corroding the country from within. So unless someone is able to tackle those very hard lessons that were unresolved since the Civil War, you never resolve them. You just push them in, and you keep pushing them in. Unless someone resolves the lack of education, the faulted political system, look, what happened now will happen in some other moment in the future. And you have to understand that Europe Canada, the rest of the world. Okay, we cannot sit by idly in getting dragged into your shit. This is why people are cutting their losses and look, let's move on, let's find solutions. If it's a bit hard, well, it has to be. But this is exactly what is going to happen. And if you think I'm happy about it, no, don't think that. No. Okay. I lived as a kid through the Cold War and I saw it ending, and there was about a year of security for us. And after that, it ended. At least here in Europe, we saw immediately where this was going. Some of us said they didn't, some didn't want to. Okay, different things happened, but the truth is, only the Americans did not know the way this was going. Reagan was the first symptom. Simple as this. Okay, uh, you didn't win any Cold War. The other side just gave up, and you were pushing and you fell. This is a good of an analogy as anyone and as any other, because you continue to act and function in the same way with that two-party system that had served you when the people that were in charge of the parties were decent, hardworking, and people with principles, even if those were negative principles, okay, even if you made military interventions in South American states, whatever, there was a morality guiding those people, okay? And there was a sense of nationhood, okay, of doing what is best for the country. And right now, okay, quoting the Brazilian president, the Americans only think about themselves, and they no longer they no longer believe that they have to benefit other countries for their own sake. The end of US aid is clear example of it. And if you restore that system again, you are going to go to those countries and propose your aid again, and they are going to tell you, no, no, we are receiving our aid now from Europe, from China, from Russia. We don't want you. We don't need it. Or we don't want to buy your goods either. No, no. Keep your soda, keep your fast food, keep your companies away from my country. This is going to happen. Okay, this is already happening. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. But as I said, change is inevitable. Sooner or later, this would have to happen. It it's happening right now, and all we can do is accept it and ride the wave. Okay. Sorry for this long monologue, basically, with very little content. But I just had to vent this one out ever since I made that comment. Okay. Now, thank you all for listening to me. Thank you for visiting my channel, for seeing my videos. I am I'm really appreciative of it. Okay, I really like it. I like to hear the reaction of other people, to hear about their insight, about their information. I have enriched myself mentally because this is not monetized. I have enriched myself very much by listening to other people. You have the occasional troll, but look, that is natural. And when I say troll, I mean troll. I don't mean people with different opinions because that doesn't offend me at all. In fact, it's the opposite effect. But Thank you all, and especially if you are in the United States, stay safe. Okay? I hope you and yours, your family and your friends, that you are all right. And well, see you next one.